The laptop screen is still open when Aubrey walks in, and Yasmin's fingers are still on the keys, mid-delete. "Get your hands off my spreadsheet," Aubrey says. Yasmin doesn't even flinch. She closes the laptop slow, like she's got all the time in the world, and says, "It's not your spreadsheet anymore, sweetheart. Half of this business isn't even yours anymore. Neither is he." Behind her, Corbett won't look up from his phone. That's the part that guts Aubrey the most. Not the words, but the silence. In 6 weeks, that silence is going to cost both of them everything. But right now, standing in the back office of the gym she built with her own hands, Aubrey doesn't know that yet. She only knows the numbers don't add up, and neither does the woman standing in front of her. To understand how they got to that office, you have to go back 2 years, to the day Aubrey Sorrell signed a partnership agreement with a trainer named Yasmin Croft. Aubrey had run a small personal training studio out of a converted warehouse space for 3 years before that, building a loyal client base, one sweaty, unglamorous session at a time. She was good at the business side, contracts, scheduling, marketing. But she needed someone who could pull in the high-energy group class crowd, someone charismatic enough to fill a room. Yasmin walked into her life at a fitness expo with a ring light, a following of 11,000 people, and a laugh that made everyone around her feel like the funniest person in the room. "You've got the bones of something real here," Yasmin told her that day. "You just need someone to put a face on it." They shook on a 50-50 partnership 3 months later. They called it Ember Row Fitness. Aubrey handled the books, the leases, the insurance. Yasmin handled the Instagram, the classes, the energy. For a while it worked. Membership doubled. They hired 2 more trainers. Aubrey's husband, Corbett Wynn, came to every open house with a tray of protein shakes he'd make in their kitchen, beaming like a proud dad. Corbett had married Aubrey 8 years earlier, back when she was still teaching spin classes at a chain gym for $11 an hour. He used to tell people he fell in love with her ambition before he fell in love with her. He worked in commercial insurance, steady but unremarkable, the kind of job that paid the mortgage and not much else. Ember Row was supposed to be their future. Aubrey used to joke that it was their 3rd kid, the one that actually listened to her. The cracks started small. Yasmin began scheduling herself for the most popular class times and quietly bumping Aubrey's sessions to the slow afternoon slots. She started referring to the studio as my program in client emails. Aubrey let it go, because that's what you do with a business partner. You pick your battles, you keep the peace, you keep the doors open. Then the numbers started slipping. It was small at first, a few $100s unaccounted for in the supply budget, a missed vendor payment Yasmin swore she'd already sent. Aubrey chalked it up to the chaos of running a growing business. She had no reason yet to think it was anything else. The rumors came next. A longtime client pulled Aubrey aside after a Saturday class and said, "I heard you're the reason Yasmin's been stressed lately. Something about you cutting her class hours to save money?" Aubrey hadn't touched the schedule in weeks. That was the first time she felt something cold settle in her stomach. The first time she thought, someone is lying. And it isn't me. Around the same time, Corbett started coming home late from the gym 2, sometimes 3 nights a week, saying he was helping Yasmin audit the equipment inventory. Aubrey believed him, because why wouldn't she? He'd never given her a reason not to. She was tired, stretched thin, managing a business that was somehow bleeding money she couldn't account for, and she didn't have the bandwidth to be suspicious of her own husband on top of everything else. The escalation came on a Tuesday night in October, when Aubrey picked up Corbett's phone to check a delivery notification and saw a text preview flash across the lock screen. It was from a contact saved simply as Y. "Can't stop thinking about last night. You make me feel like I actually matter to someone." Aubrey stood there in the kitchen holding that phone like it had caught fire. She unlocked it. She knew his passcode, their anniversary, and scrolled back through 8 months of messages. Not just affection, money, wire transfer confirmations, a screenshot of a business plan titled Croft Performance Lab, Launch Budget, and a message from Corbett that made her knees go weak. Transferred another $6,000 from the joint account today. Told Aubrey it was for the roof repair. She won't check that account for months. $6,000. On top of, as she'd later discover, $31,000 moved in smaller increments over the better part of a year. Money he called their safety net. Money he'd actually funneled into Yasmin's new gym under the label of a safe side hustle investment. An idea Yasmin had apparently spent months planting in his head during those late-night inventory audits. Aubrey didn't confront him that night. She didn't scream, didn't throw the phone, didn't wake him up demanding answers. She sat at the kitchen table until 3 a.m, and she started a folder on her laptop. She named it simply Proof. That was the moment the story shifted. Aubrey stopped being the woman getting cheated on and started being the woman building a case. Over the next several weeks, she moved like a ghost through her own life, smiling at clients, running her classes, kissing Corbett goodnight, all while quietly pulling every financial thread she could find. She requested detailed statements from their business bank. She cross-referenced Ember Rose supply invoices against actual deliveries and found nearly $9,000 in payments to vendors that had never sent anything to the studio at all. Payments that, when she traced the routing numbers, led to a shell account tied to Yasmin's name. She found lease documents for a new commercial space 3 miles away, signed 2 months earlier, for a business called Croft Performance Lab. She reached out to a forensic accountant a client had recommended once in passing. Her name was Cameron Wells, a sharp, no-nonsense woman who ran her own small firm out of a strip mall office. Cameron looked at the spreadsheet Aubrey had built and let out a low whistle. "You built half of this yourself already," Cameron said. "You don't need me to find the fraud. You need me to make it airtight. Can you do that? Give me 3 weeks and every statement you've got. If this is what it looks like, she didn't just steal from your marriage. She stole from your business, and that's a very different kind of problem for her." While Cameron worked, Aubrey kept her face steady at the studio. Yasmin had gotten bolder, openly correcting her in front of staff, telling a trainer they'd hired that spring, "Just run it by me first. Aubrey's had a lot on her plate lately." The implication was always the same, that Aubrey was the problem, the one driving members away, the one who couldn't keep up. Membership numbers were dropping, and Yasmin made sure everyone believed it was because of her. What none of them knew was that Yasmin had started quietly encouraging her favorite clients to follow her to a new location opening soon, dropping hints in private messages, building a client list to poach before she'd even resigned. Aubrey found those messages too, forwarded to her, without much thought, by a loyal client named Cora. "Is Yasmin leaving?" Cora's message read confused. "She said something about a fresh start opening in November, and that I should keep it quiet for now." That was the confirmation Aubrey needed. Yasmin wasn't just having an affair with her husband and skimming studio funds. She was planning to gut Ember Row entirely, take the clients, take the money, and take Corbett, and disappear into a shiny new gym with her name on the door, leaving Aubrey with the lease, the debt, and the wreckage. The office confrontation happened 3 days after that. Aubrey came in early to grab a folder of tax documents Cameron needed and found Yasmin at the desktop computer, deleting financial records from the shared studio drive. Corbett stood a few feet away, arms crossed, unable to meet her eyes. That's the moment we started with. That's the moment Yasmin told her, "It's not your spreadsheet anymore, sweetheart. Half of this business isn't even yours anymore. Neither is he." Aubrey didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just looked at her husband and asked one question. "How long, Corbett?" He finally looked up. "It's not what you think. I'm not asking what it looks like. I'm asking how long." He didn't answer. Yasmin answered for him with a small, satisfied smile. "Almost a year. He's happier than he's been in a long time, Aubrey. Maybe you should think about why." Aubrey picked up her folder, turned around, and walked out without another word. That silence unsettled both of them more than any scream could have. Yasmin had expected tears. Corbett had expected a fight he could survive. What they got instead was a woman quietly building a case that would end them both. 2 weeks later, Cameron finished the forensic report. It was thorough: bank statements, wire transfer trails, lease agreements, invoices for equipment that had mysteriously appeared at Croft Performance Lab, despite being paid for through Ember Rose supplier accounts. All told, the report traced $58,000 in misappropriated studio funds and joint marital savings, funneled over 11 months into building Yasmin's new gym. "This isn't just a bad breakup," Cameron told her, sliding the folder across the table. "This is fraud. Misuse of business funds, breach of fiduciary duty as a partner, and depending on how her licensing board views it, potentially grounds for revocation. You've got everything you need." Aubrey also had something Cameron didn't know about: a date. She'd seen the flyers around town, the glossy postcards in club bathrooms, the countdown on Yasmin's Instagram. Croft Performance Lab was holding its grand opening on a Saturday morning in December, with a ribbon cutting, a local news crew, and a guest list that included half of Ember Rowe's old client base. Aubrey called a lawyer, a calm, methodical man named Denton Marsh, and walked him through everything. He confirmed what Cameron already suspected, that Aubrey, as a 50% owner of Ember Rowe, had every legal right to pursue Yasmin for the misappropriated funds, and that presenting clear evidence of fraud publicly wasn't just satisfying. It was smart, because it would establish a public record before Yasmin had any chance to quietly settle or disappear. "You don't have to do anything dramatic," Denton told her. "We can file quietly and let this play out in a courtroom." "I know," Aubrey said. "But she took my clients, my marriage, and my business, and she did it by making everyone believe I was the problem. I'm done letting her control the story." The morning of the grand opening was cold and bright, the kind of crisp December day that makes everything look sharper than it is. Croft Performance Lab sat in a renovated storefront with floor-to-ceiling windows, a bright red awning, and a banner that read, "New ownership, new energy," stretched across the entrance. A small crowd had gathered, clients Aubrey recognized, a photographer from the local paper, a reporter named Briar Combs holding a coffee cup and a notepad, and Corbett standing near the door in a new blazer Aubrey had never seen before, looking every bit like a proud investor. Yasmin stood in front of the ribbon in workout gear, all white teeth and confidence, mid-sentence into a microphone when Aubrey stepped through the crowd. "And I just want to thank everyone who believed in me, who saw the vision when maybe other people couldn't." "Other people like your business partner?" Aubrey said, loud enough to carry. The crowd turned. Yasmin's smile flickered but held. "Aubrey, this really isn't the time. It's exactly the time." Aubrey held up a folder, thick with printed pages, and started walking toward the little podium they'd set up by the door. "Since you're already talking about vision, let's talk about where the money for this vision actually came from." Briar, sharp enough to smell a story, stepped closer with her notepad already out. "This building, this equipment, that banner behind you," Aubrey said, "was paid for using $58,000 pulled from Ember Rowe Fitness's business accounts and my family's joint savings without my knowledge or consent. I have the wire transfers. I have the invoices for equipment that was ordered through our studio's supplier account and delivered here instead. I have text messages where you both discuss hiding the transfers from me." "That's insane," Yasmin said, her voice climbing. "She's clearly having some kind of breakdown. She's been struggling at Ember Rowe for months. Everyone here knows that. I have 3 months of client messages where you told people to keep quiet about your fresh start, so I wouldn't find out you were planning to gut our studio," Aubrey said, pulling a printed page and holding it up, not for Yasmin, but for Briar and the small crowd behind her. "I have bank statements showing Corbett transferring money from our joint account and telling you in writing that I wouldn't check that account for months. I have a forensic accountant's report confirming every dollar, and I have an appointment on Monday with your state licensing board, because using client trust and a training certification to run a financial scheme isn't just a betrayal, it's fraud." The word landed like a dropped weight. Briar was already writing. A woman near the front, one of Yasmin's newest clients, lured over with a founding member discount, pulled out her phone and started recording. Yasmin's composure cracked for the first time. "You don't understand the context. This is a business. Businesses need investment. I was going to pay it back? With what?" Aubrey asked. "The memberships you stole by lying to clients about why they were suddenly unhappy at Ember Rowe?" Or the $6,000 Corbett wired you last month, calling it a safe side hustle when you both knew it was coming straight out of our savings? Corbett finally spoke, stepping forward, his voice tight. Aubrey, please, not like this. Not in front of everyone. You didn't think about me in front of anyone for the last 11 months, Aubrey said, turning to him. You sat across from me at dinner and asked how my day was while you were helping her hide stolen money in a new gym with her name on the door. I think you can survive 5 minutes of embarrassment. The photographer's camera clicked. Breyer asked evenly, Do you have documentation you're willing to share for a story? I have copies for you right now, Aubrey said, and handed her a folder she'd prepared exactly for this moment. Everything's dated, sourced, and verified by a licensed forensic accountant. What happened over the following weeks unraveled fast, the way things do once the truth finally has somewhere to land. Breyer's story ran 4 days later, headlined with a photo of Yasmin mid-ribbon cutting, her smile frozen, Aubrey's folder visible in the corner of the frame. The article detailed the misappropriated funds, the fraudulent vendor payments, and included statements from Cameron's forensic report. Once the story was public, 2 more former Ember Row clients came forward with their own complaints about deceptive billing under Yasmin's private coaching packages, money charged for sessions that never happened. The State Training and Certification Board opened a formal review within the month. Between the financial fraud findings and the ethics complaints from clients, Yasmin's professional certification was suspended pending investigation, then formally revoked 5 months later. Without it, she couldn't legally advertise herself as a certified trainer, couldn't get liability insurance for group classes, and couldn't run Croft Performance Lab the way she'd built it. The gym limped along for 10 weeks before quietly closing, the same red awning taken down by a demolition crew clearing the space for its next tenant. Corbett's collapse was slower and in some ways worse. Once Denton filed the civil suit against both Yasmin and Corbett for the misappropriated joint funds, Corbett was legally on the hook for the money he'd knowingly diverted since it came from an account he shared with Aubrey. The divorce filing followed 2 weeks after the grand opening, and Aubrey's legal team used the forensic report as the backbone of the settlement negotiations. Corbett ended up liable for repaying the bulk of the diverted funds, on top of losing his stake in a business that no longer trusted his judgment, and a job that quietly let him go after his name showed up attached to a public fraud investigation. His employer, a commercial insurance firm, didn't love a lead account manager being linked to headlines about financial deception, even in his personal life. The last time Aubrey spoke to him was at a mediation meeting, both of them across a long conference table with their lawyers beside them. He looked smaller than she remembered, the blazer gone, the confidence gone with it. I never meant for it to go this far, he said. You mean you never meant to get caught, Aubrey said. There's a difference. He didn't have an answer for that. There wasn't one that would have mattered. As for Ember Row, Aubrey didn't let it die with the scandal. She bought out what remained of Yasmin's ownership stake as part of the settlement for a fraction of what the business was actually worth, and rebuilt it under a new name over the following year. She brought back trainers who'd left during the chaos, and half of Yasmin's founding members quietly slid back into Ember Row's classes within weeks of the story breaking, sheepish but grateful for somewhere honest to land. Membership climbed back past where it had been before any of this started, and this time, Aubrey kept every account, every login, and every vendor contract solely in her own name. She still teaches the Saturday morning class herself. A few longtime clients tell her they respect her more now than they ever did before, not because of what happened to her, but because of how calmly she handled it. Aubrey tells them the same thing every time. I didn't get even by yelling. I got even with paperwork. If you had a business partner or a spouse betray you like this, what would you have done differently? Confront them privately or make them answer for it in public, the way Aubrey did? Let us know in the comments, and if you want more stories like this one, hit subscribe because this channel is just getting started.